Vera Shlakman, an influential economics professor who was fired by Queen's College after she refused to tell Senate investigators whether she had ever been a card-carrying communist, a punishment that brought an apology 3 decades later, died on November 5 at her home in Manhattan. She was 108. Her death, which was not widely reported at the time, was confirmed by her friend Ellen J. Holohan. Vera Shlakman was the last survivor among more than a dozen teachers at New York City's public colleges who were ousted by the Board of Higher Education during the early stages of the Red Scare wrought by Senators Pat McCarran and Joseph R. McCarthy. A 42-year-old assistant professor when she was fired in 1952, Vera Shlakman neither taught economics again nor wrote a sequel to her groundbreaking 1935 book on female factory workers. 30 years later, 10 of the fired professors, including Vera Shlakman, were indemnified with pension settlements after receiving an apology from college officials. They were dismissed during and in the spirit of the shameful era of McCarthyism, during which the freedoms traditionally associated with academic institutions were quashed. The trustees of the City University of New York declared in a resolution adopted unanimously in 1980. The trustees had succeeded the Board of Higher Education. No one doubted Vera Shlakman's political leanings. She had been named for the Russian revolutionary Vera Shlakman. Emma Goldman, the anarchist, was a regular guest in her family's home. Vera Shlakman was vice president of the college division of a teachers' union local that was rebuked for being dominated by communists. But when she was summoned before a public hearing of the Senate Internal Security Subcommittee, led by Senator McCarran, a Nevada Democrat, Vera Shlakman invoked her constitutional guarantees of free speech and privilege against self-incrimination when asked about her membership in the Communist Party. "Do you believe that a member of the Communist Party can be a college teacher?" Robert J. Morris, the subcommittee counsel, asked Vera Shlakman at the hearing, held on September 24, 1952, at the United States Courthouse in Foley Square in Manhattan. She replied, "I think that any teacher must be judged on the basis of his performance in the classrooms, that if a teacher follows professional standards in the classroom, and is a scholar, he is entitled to teach as any citizen." As an economist, Vera Shlakman seemed to suggest that communism had become an overwrought term. She cited one example of what, by her reckoning, had once been branded radical but became an accepted staple of American life while leaving democratic institutions intact. When the United States Post Office began to carry packages, she said, this activity was viewed as a challenge to private enterprise and a kind of socialistic or communistic activity. Pressed about whether being a communist would close a teacher's mind to any deviation from the party line, she replied that similar speculations had been raised against devout Roman Catholics. "We don't condemn people now, at least I assume we don't, on the basis of guilt by association," she said.